Hello, everybody. Welcome to another stream. We're breaking more day zero milestones. I think this is the first time we've streamed twice in one day. So we had the podcast earlier. So we're, you know, doing new stuff. I don't know what else we haven't done now on this channel. We got to find new milestones. Not that we ever really had those written down or anything. So yeah. I've been doing a little bit of work on reworking the exploit that I had into the race. I ended off last stream by having confirmed the memory, the theory of how the memory will work. I confirmed that would work out. Now I just have to move it into a race and get the timings down, which actually technically I have done. I have moved stuff into 2 threads, and I'll go over that in a minute. Now all you need is a scandal. I guess you could call the 0-day fans kind of scandalous. I don't know. But Z's working on that. We'll get that eventually. So yeah, I've reworked the corruption into a race. So let me go into that really quick, because that's kind of important to our strategy. So I'll just duplicate the code that's on the other thread in a split view. That way you can kind of see the left is thread 1, the right is thread 2. That's essentially how I'm working it out for the stream. All right, so yeah, when we get down to, so basically at this point, like 550 downwards, we have a UDP socket and a stack of file pointers on the TCP socket pair, and they share the same mbuff. They point to the same place. Lots of beeping. Are there a lot of people redeeming beeps? Hey, I mean, that's what the channel points are there for, right? So yeah, we have a TCP socket pair and a UDP socket, both pointing to the same mbuff. And what we're doing here is on one thread, we are triggering a read of the file pointers. That way it passes the MT control check, which I will go to really quick as well. Basically in UIPC socket, we need to get past... this function is so damn large. Is it this? I'll just do a search. Okay, there we go. We need to get past this point before we start the corruption, right? So thread 1 runs, it gets to this point. Hopefully at some point it goes to sleep, or our other thread runs on a different core in parallel. This thread will run. It will free the mbuff, fill it with hex 4 ones. Actually, I don't have spray socket in this other thing. I'll bring that up so it's a bit more clear. And it's initialized here. Right? So it'll run, it'll get to that point, cut out, or sleep, or whatever, and then thread 2 will run. It has a spray that's already been set up. That way it's outside of the timing window. It doesn't add any noise. Basically, I launched this thread really early. I launch it pretty much as soon as main is called, as soon as the program starts. But I have it in this while loop that'll just busy wait until I set the start thread variable to 1. That way there's no interference with kickstarting the thread, making the P thread call. There's no timing lost to that. It can just jump right into the code right away. So yeah, start thread gets set to 1. It breaks out of this loop. It frees the mbuff, and it reclaims it with the hex 4 ones, right? Hex 4 1 master race, by the way. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify the kernel to artificially extend that window. I actually did try this yesterday, I think, and it does work out, but I will show you guys. And also I edited it out when I was trying something else, so I got to put it back in anyway. So I could show you guys that this strategy will, in fact, assuming we can get the timings good enough, which I think we can, this strategy will work out. So I'm going to get rid of this because this was just to show you guys what was happening. I'll go back to a single layout. So essentially in this UNP externalize function, so here's another thing actually that I want to cover. Before, when I covered the race window on the last stream, I thought it was larger than it actually is. I thought the race window included... Let me reorder this so it's a bit more clear. I thought the race window included this down to here, as well as all of this, basically, right? This is actually not the case. All of this is not within the race window. You have to beat this line of code right here, the line 1681. And the reason we have to beat this is because it takes the data buffer from the mbuff, like mdata. It reads that at the top of the function, and we want to be able to change that to data that, like, point to data that we control. So we have to beat this instruction. So the window is a little bit smaller, but I think it's still hittable. So yeah. In regards to the bug, the bug is not a race condition. I'll be clear on that. The bug is a double free. I'm exploiting the memory corruption in a racy way, is how I'd put it, I guess. Late stream? Yeah, it is a little bit of a late stream. Not as late as the one I did last week, but it is a bit late, yeah. How long is this live stream going to be? I'm not sure at the moment. Hopefully not too long. I wanted to go over what I was doing the last day or two, and then I'm gonna work through a few things in the code on stream, like trying to get the timings down a little bit. I noticed something. The only stable jailbreak was the one you made on 5.05. So I'll comment on stability really quickly because there's a lot of discussion around it right now. What's the best way of putting it? Stability is somewhat influenced, can be influenced by an exploit author, but a lot of the stability of an exploit is going to depend on the underlying bug. If you have a bad bug, you're never going to have a very stable exploit. And it's also dependent on other factors in the system state. The other thing I wanted to point out was, I think a lot of people are unfair. Like, I tweeted this out on Twitter, but I'll reiterate it on stream. I think a lot of people are attributing Slurs-Govy's exploit for being unstable when it's in fact the WebKit exploit that's unstable. Because what a lot of people forget is the 7.0x WebKit exploit and higher, it's using an ASLR brute force, right? I don't know if I could find that Synactive post, but Synactive did a post on a WebKit exploit, and that's what the PS4 exploit's based off of. What is going on with Google? What? Okay. Anyway, whatever. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, they use an ASLR brute force, right? And because of that, they basically spray a bunch of stuff on the heap and try to guess a pointer that points to valid data. So it's really finicky. It's really unstable. Unless a better WebKit exploit comes around, you're not going to get much more stable than what's already out there. Now, the Slurs-Govy's exploit does contribute a little bit to instability on WebKit because he has a 244,000 line of code file for the kernel exploit because he compiles ROP chains. That might be contributing a little bit to how much WebKit crashes, but most of it is from the WebKit exploit itself, right? And that can't really be helped because of the nature of how it's exploited. The only way you can make that more stable is if you had an info leak and you chained it with it. And people don't really want to burn a WebKit info leak just to use it on PS4 because WebKit info, those kinds of info leaks are valuable. So if you can already get away without using one, people aren't going to burn one needlessly, unless they just have bugs coming out of a mountain and they can afford to burn them on stuff like that, which is not really the case. So yeah, we'll get back to the kernel exploit. And answering the question of will this be more stable than what Slurs-Govy's already done, I don't know. I've kind of said on the stream before that it could be more stable. It could also not be more stable. The factors that influence that are a little bit different between our exploits. Because what makes his exploit potentially unstable is the heap not working out the way that you need it to work out. Whereas mine is more if the timings are not sufficient, basically. So it'll be interesting to compare after the fact, but it's hard to tell before the fact. So yeah, so what I'm gonna do to debug the race and try to narrow down the timings is I'm gonna add a pause intentionally into the UNP externalized function right before our window closes. So what I'm doing here is I'm artificially extending the window by 5 seconds, right? The pause function in FreeBSD, it takes a value in hertz, and on AMD 64, hertz is a millisecond. So 5 times 1000 milliseconds, 5 seconds. What my plan is to try to narrow down the timings is basically to shrink that window to try to hit a smaller and smaller window, and then remove the pause altogether and tweak to try to hit it without the artificial extension of the window. So we're going to be doing some kernel compiling on the stream. Luckily, it's not going to take too long because I'm not make cleaning. Like, I'm not doing a full build every time. I'm just building what I'm changing, so it only takes like 30 seconds or whatever to build, even if it is in a 1-core VM. Yeah, so let's get into that. So we have the pause back in there, so let's go ahead and build and install that kernel. We're going to go into user source sys AMD64 compile, and I've just named mine my kernel. It's very descriptive. Actually, since we're working in terminal, let me make it a little bit bigger for you guys. I swear to God, I do this like every stream, but it like gets lost or something. I don't know. That's probably sufficient. That's probably a good size, I think. Do have to shrink the terminals a little bit though to make it work. Okay, perfect. So, what is? Oh, okay. It's just I don't know what's going on with the terminal there. Anyway, doesn't matter. So we're in the directory. We can now make. Oh, actually, I didn't upload the file because I forgot I have that on a different screen. I used to do this with the script, but the script wasn't working properly, so I stopped using it. So, yeah, we have UIPC user request, so I'll just upload that to the system, or to the VM. UIPC user request. And we're going to compile the kernel to actually use that. Why is it doing this? It's not auto-scrolling anymore. I think I broke WSL. Oh well, whatever. What exactly are you using the double free for? So it's a double free in the mbuff zone. So it's a little bit tricky to hit and to exploit. If it was a double free in the general allocator, we would have been done already. So we have to get creative with how we exploit it. Basically, what I'm intending to use it for, and as a end term, like as an end goal, is to corrupt a stack of file pointers that get passed through IPC, so that I can get corrupted file descriptors with file pointers I control, so I can get code execution on that. Are you working on FreeBSD or the PS4? So I'm working on BSD VM for debugging purposes and writing it up. It is intended to be used on the PS4 eventually, but I'm not testing on the PS4 right now. All right, so we have it made. We can just install it now real quick. And then we'll reboot, and we'll be able to boot into our modified kernel. All right. Okay, this is really... I might have to kill this terminal, because this is really annoying that it won't scroll anymore. It won't auto-scroll. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. Maybe if I make it bigger again so I get rid of that bottom scroll bar. You have a plan for next firmware? What's next firmware? Do you mean after 8.0 or whatever? No. I mean 7.55 just dropped. All right. So the VM is rebooting. Let's see where we're at. It's pretty close to being rebooted. That should be good, I think. Do it like that. Okay, SSH has restarted. We can now get the message and try our race and let it work. So, yep, we'll go in here. All right. So we've got to compile it, and we have to use the pthread flag because we are doing threading. If we don't do that, we'll get link errors when using the pthread functions. So let's run it and see what happens. Hello, Balika. Good morning. Welcome in. Okay, so you can see we're kind of hung up because of the artificial sleep, or the artificial race extension. Let's see what's happened here. Oh, it might still be running, actually, because pause is a little bit weird. It's not always super exact. Well, Lolo, thank you for the 100 bits. Appreciate it. What is going on here? Let me see. I can still type in terminal. It's like we're frozen. Okay, there we go. I just had to kill it, I guess. Which is weird, because I expected it to crash on its own, but oh well. I'll diagnose why that happened in a few minutes. Isn't Sony published the source code for WebKit? The source that Sony uses for WebKit is public. By license, they have to disclose changes. It's on their open source software page. I'm pretty sure they intentionally make it broken, though. If you actually try to build the WebKit that's on the OSS page of Sony, it won't build. You'll get compile errors. Because they try to... I think they try to be sneaky and make it so that, hey, we've disclosed the source, but good luck actually getting it to build because we've broken it in ways that don't violate the license, but it's, like, on the edge. I'm suspicious, we'll put it that way. Not sure if they have to release whatever they change. I think they do. Because they're using... the WebKit license is the BSD2 clause, so... yeah. Alright, let's figure out what happened with this crash. So, crash... which crash ID is this? We crash 3. Core.text.3 less. Okay, this is the panic that I expect, although the behavior that I expect did not happen. So I'm just going to run it again because that is kind of unexpected what happened. Let me check on the exploit, make sure I didn't change anything. Read FD, no sleep. Well, I don't know. That should be fine though. It's probably not doing anything bad. Start thread 1, that should be... yeah, I think this should be fine. Might have just been a weird one-time issue, so we'll try it again. Wondering why for these very simple browsers they don't use a memory save version. Written in Rust, I mean, it's the main point of entry. Yeah, I don't know what their decision process is behind choosing something like WebKit for their browser. I guess I think it also comes down to applications, right? There's certain applications on the system that are basically native web apps. Like the Netflix application on the PS4 is basically a wrapped WebKit. So if you converted that to like a more minimized browser, I guess, or like a proprietary browser, you would have to modify those applications to work on that, and that would be a lot of work. So that's probably why they don't do that. Do you happen to have a properly working and fully compatible browser engine written in Rust laying around? Servo or whatever, it's doesn't count until it's done. I think Servo's gone. It's been discontinued. Because that was managed by Mozilla, and Mozilla kind of took a big hit last year. What does Microsoft use for Xbox? It's not Unix system, right? They use Windows 10. The Xbox uses Windows. It's a modified Windows, as far as I understand it. They use Windows and Hyper-V in their stack. All right, so we did get the behavior we expected. So let me walk through this really quick. So, actually, let me copy this into a text editor because I hate scrolling in terminal. It's just annoying, unnecessarily annoying. All right, so this is the mbuff we have the double free on. This 78,000. So cluster M. That's how you know we have the double free. Then it gets released back to the allocator on the first UDP packet, UDP socket. It gets released to UNP internalize, which takes it. Then it gets released again when it gets to externalize, and another spray takes it. And then when externalize continues, you end up with it taking the pointer, and you have the 4 ones. Now, this behavior isn't actually totally what I expected. Because I expected externalize to be called before the clusters were invoked, which isn't what happened. Because the sleep was put in the UNP externalize, but that shouldn't be affecting this. So I'm not totally sure what happened there either. Let me look at my kernel modifications again. Do I have anything intentionally sleeping in so receive generic? No, I don't. This is all just prints, which would minimally affect the timing. Because this pause did get executed, but it got executed late. It should have gotten executed before the spray happened, so that's strange, because I didn't have this behavior before. Like, I do start the thread before reading from the socket pairs, but that should be fine. Greetings from Mexico. Thank you. So we start the thread, and then we read on that set of descriptors. I don't see how we would have lost that race. Because... Oh, you know what, actually? It might be because this file didn't get... I think I was running a stale exploit file. That might have been it, actually. Because here right now, it doesn't make sense what's happening, but in an earlier copy where this was uncommented and it was a different value, it totally makes sense. Okay, that might be what's happening. So the system has rebooted, thankfully, so we can get back to testing right away. Let's update the exploit on the system. Okay. Let me quickly... You go down. Okay. So, we'll get log. We'll rebuild. And we'll run again. Good talk about the Xbox One's hardware security. Is that the CCC talk or whatever it was? Yeah, I mean, Xbox's security is kind of insane. I've talked about it before, but like Xbox has a few things going for it from a security standpoint. No, it's from Platform Security Summit. Oh, okay. I mean, Xbox has a few things going for it from a security standpoint. For one, it's running Windows and it's running Hyper-V. That Hyper-V alone is a big boon to Xbox's security. It uses virtualization where PS4 doesn't. And Hyper-V is pretty strong. It also makes exploit chains extremely expensive on Xbox. When you're talking about like a containerist, like a VM escape and a Windows 10 kernel exploit, as well as a browser exploit, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of an exploit chain. So it's really expensive to attack the Xbox One, and they support homebrew out of the box. So really, the only reason to even attack the Xbox One is either because you can or you want to, like for the challenge, or because you care about piracy that much. Which again, when you're talking about like multi-$100,000 exploit chains, doesn't really make sense from a valuation perspective of, going through all that effort and burning that much money for piracy. So the incentive isn't there, and the difficulty is really high. So it's just there's no point in really attacking it. Or there might be people who have attacked it, but they'll just never publicize their exploit chains because they don't want to burn their bugs. So this time we did get expected behavior. So it was because I was failing to upload the newer exploit file. I'm dumb. So apologies. It happens to all of us. All right. So kind of similar to what I was talking about before. The behavior up here is the same. The mbuff gets taken twice. Released, taken by UNP internalize. Taken by the externalize. So up here in SO receive generic, you can see these are legitimate pointers. This is legitimate data. This is what the buffer should be pointing to inside of the UNP externalize function, right? Then externalize gets called. My sleep kicks in to extend the window. The mbuff gets freed, reclaimed by a stack of hex 4-1s, and then eventually, near the bottom, the externalize continues, and we have our 4-1s in place. And if you look at RCM here, under normal circumstances, it would match the data from so receive generic here. Normally, this 35,000 would be what UNP externalize sees for the control message, but because we corrupt it, we get it pointing to this 4C, which we control, right? And that's where the 4-1s come from. The reason we crashed, because I'm pretty sure we should have crashed, right? We should be in a fresh boot, yeah. So the reason we crashed is because when we go to read the FDs, let me go to read FD. It'll receive the message and it'll intend to parse the message, right? So it'll receive it and it'll try to parse it using the cmessage data macro. When it does that, because hex 4-1 is obviously not valid message, like it's not a valid pointer, it'll crash in userland. And when userland crashes, cleanups run, which means all the sockets that belong to that process end up getting cleaned up. And when the sockets get cleaned up, shit blows up. And I'll show you guys that now with the panic itself. Right, so we got var, crash, and I think, what were we on? 4, right, okay. The ID is never consistent. I've went up to like 110, and then it just randomly wraps back around, so I can't keep track of it. Right, so you can see in the stack backtrace, the panic happens when the socket gets closed, right? It goes to close F, SO close, SO free, eventually getting to SB drop internal, and that's the panic we get, SB drop. This is the exact same panic we get on the PS4, by the way, and it's for the exact same reason. When you go to leave the browser or whatever, it will try to clean up the socket, and because the state is corrupted, and it's not fixed up because we never got code execution, it crashes. Fun fact, this is actually some of the kernel instability on Slayers-Govey's exploit that people are running. I saw a few people saying they'd run the exploit, it seemed to work, and then they'd go into debug settings or something, or they'd go to run Mira, and they'd get the SB drop panic. This is that panic. Now on PS4, you don't get the KDB stack trace, but this is what the stack trace looks like. So this might actually be helpful for anybody who wants to try to fix up that instability, that post-exploitation instability on the current jailbreak. This stack trace might actually be helpful for fixing that up. So, you know what? I'll put this maybe in the Open Orbis Discord, just so it's there and people can use it. I don't know what a good channel would be for that, though. I'll figure that out in a bit. We used to have an exploit dev channel in there, and we got rid of it because it was dead as a doornail. But I'll find somewhere to put it in there. Oh, it's not the other way around. I thought they just flipped the gateway for a bit of stealth. Oh, are you talking about the Switch? Oh, yeah, the Switch game with the Ruby interpreter. I remember that, yeah. Yeah, there was some controversy. People thought he was trying to, like, sneak it in. That was an interesting story. That was a little while ago. Team executor that looked at Xbox isn't the same team executor that shamelessly copied exploits for the Switch. Throwing burns around. Are you sure it was team executor? I thought it was another team. There's like 5 different teams in Switch. I thought it was a different Switch team that was basically taking exploits and like retrofitting them, kind of, which is fine. It's totally fine, but I remember some people were like upset about that. Like, was that? I thought it was reswitched, but maybe it's not. It's been a while since I've looked at the Switch scene, so I don't remember a ton. And there's so much drama that happens in Switch scene, like it's hard to keep track of, man. For a while there, it was like every other week there was more mud being slung around over there. Executor are the ones that stole the open source stuff and sold it with their mod chips and injectors. Oh, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, okay. That's what you're talking about. I thought you were talking about like the WebKit exploit where people were saying there was a little bit of anger around them because I think they took an exploit that was not a 0-day, but it was an end day that worked on pretty much all the consoles on latest firmware, and they used it for an info leak when it could have been used for so much more, and they just like burned it for what some people saw as like no reason. That's kind of what I was thinking of, but yeah, that was a different situation. And I will say, like, I don't really have that opinion of like I don't have any ill will to anybody, but it's fun to follow the Switch drama every now and then. All right. So yeah, we managed to hit the race on with an extended window. So there's 2 paths that I can go with from here. I can either use the inflated time window to take this to code execution. That way, it I don't have to worry about the stability of the race for testing. Or I can try to figure out the timings first to try to make the race condition practical, where it doesn't need that artificial time extension, so you can run it on a stock kernel. But then I would still need to take it to code execution from where it is now. So I thought it might be fun to do like a poll or something in chat, because I'm not really sure which road I want to go down at the moment. So maybe Zeke, do you have anything for like polls? Do you know of any like sites where we can run a quick poll, like a straw poll or something? Because I think that would be fun. A fun like thing to do with the stream. Use/poll. I'm gonna have to look up the like how you use that. It's built into Twitch. Okay, I never knew Twitch. I've never seen anybody use. I gotta figure out how this works. Sorry. Let me take a quick look at how this works. Oh, it brings up a pop-up. Okay. I thought you had to use it like as a normal thing. Okay. Um, um, use inflated timings to take to code exec or get rid of inflated timings. Man, their character limits are so annoying. I gotta rephrase it. Sorry. Okay, I finally started a poll. That was really frustrating. I wish Twitch had better character limits on that. I did start a poll though. I'm guessing it came up for you guys. I put it through, so we'll see, I guess. Yeah, I see it on the banner in the chat now. All right. But betting on anything useless, it's an LPE, not RCE. We can gamble channel points on whether you get RCE or not. Oh, I see. Okay. That's what that was about. It's effectively RCE as a high privileged user. Technically, if you factor in like the WebKit exploit on the PS4, it's an RCE chain, but on the BSD VM, it is a local privesc. The kernel exploit's a local privesc, and the WebKit exploit is a remote code execution. All right. But then you have it. Then you already have it, not getting it. That's true too. Really? They limited the amount of characters to the question? Yeah, I was basically, I think I was limited to 32 characters or something. It was really short. I guess because they, like, the poll is displayed in the chat window, so they don't want it, like, overflowing or whatever, but it's a tight limit. I had to rephrase it a few times to try to meet it. It was kind of annoying. Wow. It's looking pretty decisive, dudes. 15-3 for get proper timings. I was kind of expecting it to go the other way. I thought we'd go for the code execution, but all right. I'm down for doing timings. All right. I guess we're doing timings. 16-3 in final counts. All right. So, like I said, we're going to continue with what I said earlier. I'm going to shrink the timing window down to try to hit it. And when we get to a point where we can no longer hit it, then we will tweak timings and stuff. So I think a good step down would be 5 seconds to 3. That's probably a fair step down. We can see if we can hit 3 seconds. So let's get that uploaded. That's the wrong thing. Wrong directory. We'll get there one day. Okay. User source. 64. Compile. My kernel. Make. So, I'll ask again. I kind of asked a little bit on the last stream, but I think it was too new for people to really comment too much. What would you guys say is the kernel exploit stability of Slier's implementation for like 7.5 or 7.55? Would it be like out of 10, how many times does the kernel, like the system entirely, crash on average? Not just WebKit, I mean the entire system, like where you have to reboot. How many times does that happen out of 10? Because I kind of want a baseline, I guess, to compare with later on. For you, 3 times. So it works 6 times out of 10, essentially. That's not bad at all. That's pretty good. The other thing is too, like, it will somewhat vary depending on the model. Like the PS4 Pro is likely going to have a different behavior a little bit than the non-Pro, because you have different, like the Pro has a faster CPU. The memory layout is a little bit different, so there will be a bit of variance depending on the model, but 4 times for you? Okay. I mean, that's not bad at all, like, in terms of stability. Wouldn't that be like 2.3 out of 10? I'm not sure what you mean. I was asking how many times it crashes out of every 10 times on average. So they're saying, are you guys saying 3 or 4 for how many times it crashes on average out of 10, or how many times it succeeds on average out of 10? I kind of worded it weird because I don't want people talking about the WebKit crashes, because that's not really relevant for the most part. I just want the kernel stuff. So that's why I kind of phrased it the way I did. Um, is the system not rebooted yet? Oh, shit. Um, that's not good. Did we break the kernel? How did we do that? Uh-oh. What did we do? All I did was change the pause duration, but we're crashed. Let me shut down the VM entirely. Let's try again. Check my system memory, make sure I'm only at 29.3 gigs out of 64 gigs of RAM used, so it's not that. We must have broke the kernel. God damn it. Good thing I made a snapshot. It's a bit old, but I did make a snapshot. So, checkmate, FreeBSD. You're not going to keep me down. Okay? I got ahead of your bullshit. The number is not that important. The key is that the machine will crash after success. So, that's kind of what I commented on earlier. It's mostly going to come down to the cleanup routines, right? So it might just be that there's a bit more needed on the cleanup in the kernel ROP chain that gets ran, but which can be improved. So I wouldn't worry about that too much, like post exploitation. All right, I have to upload a bunch of new files and rebuild. I don't know what I would have. What would I have broken here? Nothing would have broken here. All I did was change the number. I don't know. We'll upload all the files again. Because all my changes were lost where I had to restore from a backup. So, what's going on? I can't seem to. Can I connect with SSH? Yes, I can, but it's... Okay. This is being kind of weird. Why is it doing this? Okay, there we go. FileZilla just being really weird. Go to Kern, upload it there. And we've got to upload the exploit file as well, so that will be severely outdated. All right, let's try that again. Actually, we have to rebuild the kernel with our changes. I was going into the logs if I was going to run the exploit. Or kernel make. Hopefully we don't have that again. I've like rebuilt the kernel probably like 30 or 40 times now, and I've never had it do that. And I've made way more significant changes than what I did there. I literally changed one character and it broke. So that's... Maybe the gods do not shine on me today. I don't know. It's weird. I'm having some issues that I haven't had, like, on my own. It's just the demo gods cursing me, I guess. Okay. Hopefully it actually reboots this time, and it doesn't, like, stick me up. Because that would be really annoying. I'm having trouble hosting the exploit. Can only run the WebKit with 1 out of 20 success, but don't know how to inject the payload. Too many bad tutorials. I mean, the payload is basically just a TCP socket that listens on 9020. So you can just, like, on the PC side, just use Netcat or something to pipe a payload. Like, pipe the binary over to port 9020 on the PS4. And you can get the PS4 IP in like your router panel, or it'll even show it in the system information actually in the settings. So it should be relatively easy to get payloads going. Some people have made like payload senders specifically to do it, where you just give the PS4 IP and it does it for you, so you don't have to use like Netcat or whatever. All right, so we have a 3-second window in there. It actually did reboot. So I don't know what happened last time. Maybe a solar flare hit it when it was building the kernel. I don't know, but it's working fine now with the exact same files. So it was just weird. We'll run the exploit again and see if it works. I made a really sloppy guide on r/PS4 homebrew. Yeah, that's a good place for resources, is the PS4 homebrew subreddit. It's a pretty good one in general. Alright, I think we're in the sleep window. Hey Spectre, how does your work in progress exploit differ from SlearsGovey? So the bug is the same, obviously. The end target is the same. We're both hitting a stack of file pointers. How we're getting there is different. The way SlearsGovey exploits it is he does some heap feng shui to get an overlap with a packet so that he can do a 1-byte smash on the stack of file pointers and corrupt one of them. That way he can get control of the file operations table. The way I'm doing it is I'm basically using 2 threads to try to corrupt the entire stack by interleaving the code so that the free happens after a certain check. So yeah, we're just taking different strategies to get to the end target, I guess. All right. So we did hit it again with a 3-second window. So 3 seconds is sufficient. Exact same behavior as before. Did we win? Our 4 ones are there, so we did win. So let's take it down to 1 second. That's our next step. And then after 1 second, we might get rid of the sleep entirely and try to hit it on a realistic with no artificial inflation outside of maybe the debug the debug logging lines, which might impact the timings a tiny bit, but we'll see. So we'll go back in after we update timings. Oh, actually, I do have to restart the kernel real quick. Let it do its reboot. So we'll change this to 1 second. And then once it's rebooted, we'll rebuild the kernel again. So you use the double free. Yeah, we use the double free. We just race on the corruption, essentially. Sounds like Slursgoby did it easier. Actually, I think my way is easier, because the way he accomplishes that overwrite is by doing some heap grooming, and he does a lot of like he sends this shifted packet by using a type confusion. Basically, with Slursgovy's exploit, I think you're more reliant on the heap state. So if you don't get the heap state to work out the way you wanted, you're done. It's gonna crash probably. Whereas with mine, it's less reliant on the heap state, but it's a bit more reliant on the CPU and the way that timings work. Now, the reason I think mine might be more stable potentially is because the PS4 CPU is really bad. So races are typically a bit easier to hit on like a PS4 CPU, right? Because the IPC is lower. There's less instructions happening per clock. So the windows are bigger. Whereas on like a PC, like on my PC right now, my CPU cores are running at like 4 gigahertz. So races are harder to hit because your timing windows are tighter. So it'll be interesting to see how the stability works out. How does the PS4 Pro compare to the PS4? PS4 Pro has a boost mode. I think it can boost to 2 gigahertz frequency, whereas the regular PS4 is locked at 1.6 gigahertz. The PS4 Pro, I think, also has 1 more gigabyte available to games. I think it's 1 gigabyte, but I'm not 100% certain on that. All right. So yeah, let's rebuild that kernel with the 1 second window. Make sure we saved here. We'll go to there. We'll upload. User request is the one I'm looking for. So do all FreeBSD exploits work on PS4 or only some? It depends on where the bug is. Because the PS4 is not running like a stock BSD. It's running a modified BSD. So not only has Sony modified some of the FreeBSD kernel core, there's also an issue where like anything that's in a device driver in the FreeBSD main tree, chances are it's not going to be able to be hit on PS4. For the most part, the PS4 runs a proprietary driver stack. Maybe a few, like single digits probably, drivers are shared on the PS4, but for the most part, it is a custom stack of device drivers. So pretty much you would need a bug in the kernel core. You would need it in like the networking stack or a syscall or something like that. Anything in like obscure drivers, like I don't know, light NVM or something, that's out of the question. It's not going to work on PS4. And like I8BR said too, there is sandboxing in place. So even if you could hit an area of the kernel that is technically on the PS4, if it's not exposed to the WebKit sandbox or the game sandbox, then it's probably not useful. Unless somebody does like a lateral chain or something on PS4, which would be a first. Nobody's done that yet, to my knowledge. Maybe there is somebody out there who does, but who has, but it isn't public. Do you also do analysis of RE time systems by tracking? Can you rephrase that? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that question. There's always other entry points? Yeah, I mean, there's been some parser bugs that have been found on the system. The trouble is, a lot of those are not very fun to exploit because you're in an ASLR environment, so parser bugs really suck. And in those types of scenarios, your primitives are kind of limited. Like with WebKit, you can influence a lot with WebKit bugs. You can get arbitrary read write and code execution pretty easily. It's pretty much copy and paste once you have the initial like primitives set up. Whereas getting those like read write primitives and stuff, for example, on a different process is more difficult typically. All right, we should be able to run our exploit now. We're on a rebuilt kernel with a 1-second sleep window. So let's run that. Let's see if our exploit is still there. Sometimes the system wipes it if it panics. It didn't. Nice. We can run right away. Do you think WebKit is better than Chromium? I don't know enough about the two engines to have an informed opinion. To me, they're basically equivalent. I don't really, to the user perspective, there's not much difference between WebKit and Chromium. WebKit is more universal, I guess. You'll find it used on more devices. But I mean, Chromium was actually a fork of WebKit from many years ago. It has diverged, but they're pretty similar, at least in the user experience. Doesn't Chromium use WebKit? Yeah. What is it called? Yeah, like V8 and stuff came from WebKit. I think that fork happened back in 2000. God, what was it? 2013 maybe or something? It was a long while ago. I would say the code bases are probably quite different by now because it's been so many years, but at one point it did fork. Yeah. All right, so 1-second window, and we still won. So we're close on timings. Our next step is probably to remove the artificial sleep entirely and see if we can get the timings to work. So I'll remove that window. We'll just comment that line out entirely. I will have to reboot so I can build the kernel again. But yeah, we'll get that file uploaded, rebuild the kernel. Now it likely will not work out of the box. With no delay because then it's entirely dependent on the instructions that are in the stock kernel. So we'll see. We'll have to tweak timings probably for a little bit. And depending on how far we get, like I might not finish tweaking the timings, like get it all the way to working on the stream. I might do a little bit of that off stream because this part really is just trial and error. Tweaking a value by like a few digits, like maybe a few like milliseconds, trying it again. This is sometimes what you have to put up with in exploit development. It's just a bit of a grind at times, so it's not always interesting. But I'll go through a little bit of that at least on the stream because it is a part of it, right? We wanted to give insights into exploit development. All right, so I need to SSH in so I can rebuild the kernel. Let's get that uploaded. Source file. Sorry. Spaced out there a bit. All right, let me just double check that I uploaded. I'm gonna upload it again. I'm pretty sure I did upload it, but let's make sure. I don't want to install the kernel and then find out I messed up and get false hope because I left the sleep in. I'm kind of scared of that, so I did it twice. Arch user, but my news are as old as Debian packages. Arch user, that is brave. I dealt a little bit with Arch Linux when when Team started a stream of running Arch Linux on PS4. And I pretty much confirmed that day that I will never use Arch Linux. Because it is just a big pain in the ass, as far as I can tell. Unnecessary one. Please share your kernel exploit 7.5x. When I have a kernel exploit finalized, I will share it, yeah. I don't have one finalized yet, though. So in order to find bugs in PS4 specific drivers, do you need to have a jailbroken PS4? To test them, probably, yeah. You could probably find issues with like a dump. Like, there's kernel dumps out there that are public, right? Like, there's a 1.76 kernel dump out there with symbols. So you can reverse engineer and do static analysis to try to find bugs. If you're talking about like dynamic analysis, like either confirming a bug or doing like fuzzing or something, then yeah, you would need a jailbroken system. Most likely. You could do it with an unjailbroken system if you had a WebKit entry, but you would not be able to do any instrumentation or debugging, so it wouldn't be very fun. You'd be very black box in that respect. Which black box fuzzing is totally a thing. It's just not something that I particularly enjoy. I wouldn't want to go through that process. All right, so let's try to run our exploit. I am not expecting this to work, to be clear. I don't think it will work, but we'll see. Let's see what happens. I love reverse engineering, so I was just curious on how people found those bugs. Yeah, the ones that have been found that are in Sony code and not in stock BSD, they were found with reversing static analysis. That's the most straightforward way to do it, because fuzzing on PS4 is not super practical because you don't have any instrumentation. You can't use a SAN or anything because you cannot build a custom kernel and flash it on or anything. So fuzzing is quite limited in that respect. All right, let's see what happened. It didn't work as I expected, or at least I don't think it worked. We'll find out, I guess. Let's quickly copy this over so it's more easy to navigate. Okay. Yeah, so you can see here, because we don't have a delay anymore, the SO received generic and then the externalized called. These were really far apart before, right? They were like 1 second apart before, which allowed for the spray to happen in between. Where the delay is gone, now it's all together, which is not what we want. We want to interleave. We want this to run where it is, but we want this stuff to run like underneath these cluster sprays, right? So we want to interleave them. So what we want to do here is, let me think this through for a second. We want this the internalized to run, which is not part of the race. So let me just scroll past that. Basically, we want the cluster spray to happen earlier. We want it to happen before we reach this point. So I think what we'll do is we'll start the thread, and then we'll do a sleep, a nano sleep, before we invoke the function that calls this. Now there is a bit of a, you do have to hit a sweet spot, right? Because you don't want to delay this. You want this to run before the cluster spray. Or before the cluster spray takes the pointer anyway. With the externalize, that's what you want to run after. So we will have to find that sweet spot. We'll do that in a second here. Is Team Star sleeping? Yeah, for sure. It's I think it's 6 o'clock in the morning for him right now, or it might be 5 because does Germany respect daylight savings time? I don't know actually if it does or not. If they don't, then it's changed to 5 hours. So I think it used to be 6 hours. I don't know. Time zones, man. They're hard. By the way, anyone know if anybody tried Sandsifter or whatever it's called on PS4? That's the Christopher Domus tool, right? That looks for like backdoor instruction sets. To my knowledge, nobody's done that. No. I don't know how easy that would be to do on the PS4, where you don't have control of the boot process early on. But it could be interesting to look at. Can't be hacker, man, if you want to sleep. Sleep is for the weak, right? Should be easy when you boot Linux. Yeah, actually, that's a fair point. So that might be some interesting research to undertake. If you want to do that. To my knowledge, nobody's done that, so maybe you'll find something interesting. All right, so what we're going to do in our exploit is add some delay timings. Let me just make sure the system reboots before doing anything. That way we can test quickly. One thing with without having to sleep anymore is, for some reason, sometimes it doesn't crash. It just hangs, so we have to manually reboot, which is really annoying, but it's just how it is. It just really do be like that sometimes. So we're gonna scroll down here, and I do have a sleep kind of set up here that I was playing around with because I knew I would probably need that. So I can just uncomment that, and oh yeah, here's where I set up the time spec. So I think I'm gonna set a delay of 1 second and then work my way down, kind of like what I did with the sleeps, the artificial extensions in the kernel window. I'm going to start with 1 second delay here, and then we'll tweak it from there. I think that's how I'll do it. So I think the system should be rebooted by now. We should be good for another test. So let's go to another test. So we've got our kernel log. We will compile our new modified exploit file. You know what? Let me echo. Oh god, I hate that double click that my mouse does. Build.sh chmod. There we go. That should make things a little bit quicker at least. All right. Let's run the exploit. I would have taken that ages ago, but my PS4 is around 2.71 and 3.55 or something like that. Wow, those are pretty old firmwares, yeah. Oh shit, our overlap failed. That's not good. Sometimes that happens, but that's not ideal. That basically means the double free didn't trigger properly. It's usually not fatal, at least on the VM, but... Whoa. Did that work? No, that didn't work. The reason that didn't work is because we corrupted it too early. So our sleep was a little too much, basically. I never turned it on, doesn't have a hard drive, and I don't get one yet for the PS3. My PS3 stopped working, unfortunately, mostly. I mean, it turns on, but the HDMI starts cutting out, going to a black screen every 30 seconds. And then from there, the longer the system's on, it just gets worse and worse. So, rest in peace, PS3. How's it going, Spectre? We're going pretty good. We're just getting the timings down for the exploit. Did Flo quit PS4 scene entirely? I mean, Flo's always kind of been he's in the PS4 scene, obviously, for like contributing the bugs and exploits, but he mostly does that as part of his BSD research. And it's like, if it hits PS4, then that's awesome. But I don't think he's specifically looking at specifically looking only for PS4. I could be wrong on that though. I don't know. I haven't talked to Flo in a little bit. He's been busy with stuff. He's on the grind, so. So besides driver-specific code, what is the main difference between console exploits and PC exploits? There are some difference when it comes to mitigations. Linux, newer BSDs, Windows, they're all going to have some of the newer mitigations that came along in the last couple of years, such as supervisor mode access prevention, supervisor mode execution prevention, some CF, like if you're doing, especially with Windows, there's CFI. That's none of those things you have to deal with on the PS4. PS5 is a different story. I actually don't know if PS5 has CFI. It probably does. It wouldn't surprise me, but I have at the same time I haven't heard anybody mention CFI, so I should ask around about that because I never really thought about it until now. But CFI is starting to really pick up in kernel land. Windows has been kind of the leader on that, but we're starting to see like Shadow Stack and stuff creep its way into Linux. AMD actually announced today with their Epic presentation that they have hardware support for Shadow Stack on the new Epic processors. Which I don't remember if they announced that they had that on the Zen 3 Ryzen, like, consumer CPUs. I don't know if they did. They might not. Because some of those security things are, like, exclusive to enterprise at first, so. Are you still going on your strategy, or you want to make the current one stable? I'm still going on my strategy for now, at least. Until I confirm that it's not. I think it is workable, but if it happens that it's not, then that's the only time that I'll switch, I think. At least at the moment. So basically what happened here with our exploit run is we ran the spray too early. Which makes sense, because we went from 0 seconds delay to 1 second delay. That's probably too drastic. We probably need something in between. So because we ran it too early, we did get corruption of the buffer, but that check didn't pass with the empty control check, so it didn't get filtered down into the UNP externalize call. iOS has its weird PAC, pointer authentication codes. Yeah. PAC's, Apple's been leading the charge on PAC, although that is an ARM64 thing. But I think Apple helped in the design to that or something. I'm not sure what the relationship there is, but yeah, pointer authentication is an ARM thing. x86 doesn't really have an equivalent, at least not at the moment. Memory tagging will probably be the next big thing. Mr. Gate, thank you for the tier 1 sub. You've been with us for 11 months. That's crazy. Longest subscriber. Thank you. 11 months, dude. That's wild. Yeah. So there, x86 doesn't really have an equivalent of pointer authentication codes. Memory tagging is going to be the next big thing, I think. For I don't know if it will replace PAC. It might be like an alternative to PAC, but I think memory tagging is what'll be next on x86. Outside of what we're already starting to see now, like with Intel's CET, control enforcement technology. There's also the Shadow Stack stuff I was talking about with like the AMD processors as well. The CFI stuff is kind of already coming, but memory tagging is what's in the future. A couple years out, probably. So we're going to change our timing. We're going to make it 0 seconds, and we're going to make it 500 milliseconds. I do need to convert that really quick because I don't know what the conversion is. 500 ms to nanoseconds. 5 to the 8th power. So that's what? That's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That should be 500 milliseconds, I believe. If my calculations... Let me just confirm that, because my scientific notation knowledge is not awesome. Yep, that's correct. Okay, just wanted to double check. So instead of going 1 second, we'll go half a second. Did we panic and reboot from that run? Or did we not? No, we didn't. Okay. Oh, we did, actually. That's why the pipe broke. Okay, good. That's a good thing. Means we can test right away. I forgot I put this into a build script. Oh well. Maybe I'll use it next time. Shadow stacks are really interesting from a security perspective. Yeah, they provide something. I think in kernel, they're not really going to be that useful because, well, that's just CFI in general, I guess. CFI in general, I don't think will be that useful in kernel because in kernel, data only attacks are going to be relatively straightforward. And generally, if you can go that route, you would want to go that route anyway. CFI does nothing against data only attacks. Whereas memory tagging, that would foil data only attacks because, like, if you try to forge pointers to data or something, um, you need to be able to leak the tag or you're screwed. So I'm a lot more worried about memory tagging than I am about shadow stack. Put it that way. PHP doesn't like scientific notation either. I was referring to the old school scientific notation exploits. PHP is so fun with how many like wacky exploits it has. Okay, we crashed. We could have got the behavior we want. I'm not certain. We're gonna find out now. We got core.text.13. That's 13, right? Yeah. Okay, I don't think it worked. Yeah, it didn't work. Um, Again, we had that problem of it coming, the spray happening too early, it looks like, because the SO received generic happened, but the other stuff didn't happen. Let me just verify that actually. Where do those dashes come from? Are those in SO received generic? Or are they in? Yeah, they're here. Yeah, so it's possible we didn't hit this window, which is unfortunate. I think I will run it again though, the exact same way, just because when you're talking about timings, there is variance. So I'm going to run it again at 500 milliseconds because that should be closer to the mark of what I'm expecting the timings to be. Hopefully it didn't get rid of my, or yeah, it got rid of my binary. And it got rid of my source file too. I hate it when kernel panics do that. Sometimes they delete the binary, sometimes they delete both the binary and the source file that made up that binary. All right. What's Z talking about? I used to play this browser game, could transfer bank money using E notation, and it would naturally screw up the calculation. PHP global and forever type juggling champion. Yeah, PHP type juggling is a fun issue too. What bug are you working on? We're working on the flows IP6 double free. We got very similar behavior on this run than we did to the last run, which can be both good and bad. You can look at it both ways. Could be bad because it means we might not have corrupted it again. The reason it could be good is if it's the same crash, then that means we have some level of consistency, which is useful. Because it means when we do get the timing that it'll hopefully be a consistent timing that'll work. Let's find out which it is. 14. Okay, so again, we were too early on the corruption. But like I said, where it is happening more consistently, I do feel like that is a kind of a good sign too. So we'll change the timings, I think. Has it been patched on PS4 yet? It has been patched on 8.0, 8.00. Yeah. Works on 7.51 and 7.55. All right. Yeah, let's go ahead and update timings. We'll make this use a. So we were doing it too early. 1 second was too late, right? Um, Let me try to think here. No, sorry, 1 second was too early as well. So let's do 250, 250 milliseconds. We'll just keep having until we get it. The mathematician way. We got to make the mathematicians proud. All right. Ah, shit. Okay. We crashed. This happens sometimes. I've noticed it before. Um, Funnily enough, the double free triggers, and we instead of corrupting the target buffer that we try to corrupt, we actually end up corrupting SSH itself. So because I'm SSH'd in to like exfiltrate the kernel logs, sometimes the exploit actually messes that up, so it breaks the SSH connection and then it blows everything up. This should hopefully not be a problem on PS4 because there's no like active, like there's not a lot of data going over an active connection, I don't think. So, or at least not as much. So this should be less likely to occur, but that's a side effect of debugging. So that's what's happening there. My binary probably got deleted, right? Yeah. Did my source file get? Yeah, it did. I wish I could make it not do that. All right. All right, we're running. Everything looks good so far. Okay, we panicked. We'll have to wait and see what happened when we read the crash log. By the way, as a bit of a fun fact for those who missed some of our earlier streams, we actually encountered this same problem we had on the last run on the PS4 directly, because we were trying to implement the exploit in JavaScript at the time, like just doing it with straight up ROP chains, which was really difficult. But we were using Ajax to post the messages, like post the debug information over to a server through HTTP posts, and that was causing so much interference with the exploit that we would actually see our debug strings inside of like the buffers we were trying to get double free on. So that was kind of funny. Um, that actually led to Flats suggesting us the awesome method of using the mdebug service syscall to print to the kernel log instead of piping that over the network to save us from that interference. All right, let's see what the crash was. We're at 15. We should be at 15. No, we're at 16. My bad. Okay. This is actually a different panic. I haven't seen this one before. This is in the TCP input, TCP close. This one's interesting, actually. So what happened in this run? See if we can glean more information here. So we double free on this mbuff. Wow, that is a far away overlap. What was the overlap on that? 25 to 128. Holy shit. That was a lot of movement in the mbuff area. Oh, externalized, or... Yeah, SO received generic didn't even get called. Okay, that was just a bad run, I guess. Alright, fair enough. Run it again. The boy Sassy21, thank you for coming in with the sub. Tier 1 sub. Welcome in, dude. Always appreciate more champions. Alright. Let's try to run that again, because that was strange. That's 2 back-to-back runs that were unfortunate. Ah, crap. Files are gone again. Boy Sassy21 gifting in a sub too. Welcome in Reapers AU. Thank you, dude. Love seeing gifted subs. Don't get to see them too often. Alright. Try it again. What's your thoughts on this? So funnily enough, we have actually talked about the unhackable Morpheus chip on the podcast before. It's a couple years old. Because we talked about it on one of our first episodes. Like, it might have even been in the single digits. I don't remember exactly which episode it was, but yeah, we talked about the update recently. I think last week, I think we talked about it. Was it 2 weeks ago? It was either last week or the week before. We talked about a bit of an update around Morpheus. Yeah, it's cool. But I don't want to rehash over like the discussion we had over on the on that topic. So I guess, see if you could get the maybe a linked YouTube timestamp to where we talked about it. That could be interesting to you, I think. So we crashed again. Let me just see what happened. Oh. Did I get the ID right? Yep, I did. Man, that means it's still happening too early. Okay, we're gonna have to tone it down from 200 milliseconds. We're probably gonna have to go down to like maybe like 150 or something. What were we at? Were we at 250? Yeah, let's go down to 125. Just keep the halving going. And let me make sure this is correct, actually. Make sure I didn't miss a 0 somewhere along the way. Okay, I did not. So we will rebuild that. I'm not sure if Z is trying to get it, but if not, I will quickly try to find it for you. It might have been in this episode. No. Ah, there we go. It was last week, episode 67. So that was at 6 minutes 55 seconds in. So there's a timestamp to our discussion around the Morpheus chip. Just make sure there. Yeah. So that's where we kind of recap it. We recap what we talked about all the way back on episode 9. And yeah, that's the timestamp to the discussion. I'm going to say hi in another stream and take a nap. Good luck, have fun. See you in another stream, folks. Thanks for stopping by, APR. Always nice having you around. Okay, what happened? Anything cool happen on our exploit? Hard to tell. Doesn't particularly look like it. No, I think it happened too early again. We'll find out in a second here. Where did it write to? 18? Yeah, 18. Or crash. Word.text at 18. Less. Same problem. Too early. Okay. All right. Wow. This is a bit surprising that like 125 milliseconds is still too much. I kind of expected the window to be around 125 milliseconds, so I guess we'll go. Maybe we should just go low and see what happens. So let me just write down the previous so I don't forget it. Let's try going like 20 milliseconds, maybe, or 25. We'll go 25. See if 25 does anything different. Hopefully it either works or it runs too late. Because that would mean that, you know, we're at least hitting a different behavior. It is interesting. I wonder if it reconfigures to hardware attacks or if it's only software-based attacks. It mainly counters memory corruption. That's kind of something we touched on in the discussion, is it mainly like juggles things around. The higher level logic flaws, it's still gonna be susceptible to. Hardware attacks, I'm not sure where those would land. But its primary scope is the memory corruption type issues. What happened? Oh, it rebooted. We panicked. Okay, fair enough. Um, oh shit, I didn't pipe it through less. Ooh, this one might be more interesting. Let's see what happened here. We have a lot of unread log. Okay, you know what? Since I already piped out the whole thing anyway, we'll just copy the whole thing. And we'll navigate in here so we can go quicker. SB drop, SO receive generic. God damn it. Oh wait, actually, wait, hold on. Think about this for a sec. What happened on the last one? Just look at this. Let me get rid of all this crap too. I don't need any of this. It's getting in the way. So let's follow the pointer. That's my favorite game. Although, what's going? Did I forget to clear somewhere along the way here? Yeah, I forgot to clear before running it again. Actually, multiple times it would seem. How did I forget to do that? Okay. I gotta remove more stuff here so I don't get myself confused. Let's remove all this stuff too. There we go. Now we have a smaller search space. So this is the mbuff we have double free on. It takes, I gets taken by UNP internalize. Okay, here our spray is happening too early. Interesting. Okay. Go pro slow yo. Raiding in with a party of 8. Welcome in, dudes. How's it going? What were you guys up to over there? we're doing some PS4 BSD kernel exploit stuff. Doing BSD exploit stuff to eventually move to PS4. I guess is a good way of putting it. Yeah, so the internalized runs, the cluster runs, and then it uses it to... So this is actually... Why does it happen like this, actually? This doesn't really make sense to me. Oh, wait, it does. Okay, so... basically what's happening here is we're corrupting it before the SO receive is even called. And the problem with that is the empty control. We got the data in, but too early. I think I am going to add a few more prints in here to help myself to find out where in execution it's at. Because the timings are a little bit tight. So I think it's going to require a lot of playing around. So I'm probably going to continue doing this and stop streaming soon-ish. But I'll essentially just be doing this until the next stream, probably. Which will likely be in a few days' time. Just finished up some Try Hack Me, sending these good folks your way. Nice. Welcome in, everybody. Hi from France. Hello. Dude, we get a lot of people in here from like all different places in the world. It's crazy, man. We got people from France. We got quite a few people from Spain. We got some Russians. We got some Germans. Probably because Teamstar brought them. It's awesome, dude. We're very cultured here, I guess. I just want to thank you for all the knowledge you share with us. No problem, dude. 100 bits from Mr. Gate. Thank you. You got more nerve than me. Hunting down this timing stuff would drive me nuts. It's definitely not fun, but it is more fun than it would be if I was doing it on the PS4. Which is going to suck. Because these timings, when I do eventually get them down for BSD, they will probably need to change for PS4. Which is not going to be fun. It'll be fun to deal with. Hi from Japan. See? There we go. Japan. We got Costa Rica. Hello, everybody. All right. So I'm going to add a few additional logs in here for figuring out the timings, right? So here we'll put before MT control check. Let's get rid of all of this stuff because we don't need it. In here we'll do after MT control check. And then we'll put, actually this kind of accounts for the externalized call. I don't need to put another one there. So basically what I'm trying to make sure is clear on the log is like, if our data gets in before this statement is printed, then we were too early. If it comes in after this statement was printed, then it's either on time, it's perfect, or it's too late if we get past the externalized call, and then by extension, actually I should add another one in here. We'll put it here, or sorry, curthread is fine, but this one is not. Too late. Or after this point, too late. There we go. All right. So that's just to help me out. That tells me where things are in the execution exactly in the log. So, righto. We'll build the kernel for that. We'll run it one more time, and then I might call the stream there and just continue with this path. So, are we rebooted? I think we're in a clean, yep, we're in a clean state. Very good. So, oh yeah, that's right, because we got the crash log information, so of course we're in a clean state. So, user source sys AMD64, compile my kernel, and let's get our custom files in there. We got UIC socket and user request. I don't think I saved this, so let's go ahead and do that. got to go into the kernel, and we got UIPC socket and user request. All right, let's make our kernel and make install it, and we'll be good to go. I see a variable FDP. It is funny in French. FDP is the short path to say. I don't know how to say that, so I'm not gonna. It's probably gonna be even more offensive than what it actually means. Literally, motherfucker. Learn something new every day. Yeah, in the exploit context, it stands for file descriptor pointers. It's a little bit more benign in the context of the kernel code. Hi from that country below you. We got some people from Little Canada, too. Our Little Canada people of the South. Welcome in, American friends, too. So reboot into our custom kernel, give it a run, and we'll see where our timings fall relative to the added timing log points. I'm getting my COVID vaccine in a couple weeks, finally. Nice, dude. Yeah, the for all the flack that the U.S. has gotten and the kind of shit show that's been going on there for the last little while, they've really been churning through on the vaccines. You got to give some credit where it's due, man. I think you guys are like over 1 million vaccines a day now. I think it's crazy. Just going burr on the vaccines over there. Hopefully things can return to normal eventually. One day. One day. All right. So hopefully our exploit file is intact. I think it will be because we rebuilt the kernel, so it shouldn't have deleted it. But let's find out. Nope, it deleted our shit. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We can re-upload. It's just a bit annoying. That's all. Okay. Build it, and we'll run it and see what our timings are relative to the logs. As long as it don't mutate like crazy and the vaccines don't mean anything. Don't speak curse words. Don't encourage it. No, I don't think that's going to happen, but because all the variants that have been found by this point, I think they said the vaccine at least somewhat covers. So I'm somewhat hopeful on that angle. What the hell happened here, by the way? What? Oh, that's what happened. What? Why is that like... Oh, yeah. I forgot that empty control thing happens on, Wait a minute, actually. What? Oh, yeah, that's happening on other messages. Shit. I actually have to put this... So let's do that now, because I did make a mistake here. I'm modifying the routine for SO receive generic, which is used on all packets that come through, which is going to be a lot, even that aren't related to the exploit. So I should have put this in here, actually. Because that'll make it so it only goes through on this little hacked-in check that I do. Basically, for passing the messages for receiving, I pass it a pointer in the IOV, or the IOVEC. I pass it a pointer to, like an address that I allocate. This is actually the same address that SirsGovy allocates. I took it because I knew it worked. But basically, I just use it as a tag so I can check if the IOV base is equal to that, then I know it's the packet that I'm looking for. That way I don't print on every single packet, because that severely slows down performance. So that's what's happening there. So, yeah, we just need to rebuild the kernel, which should be fine because we should have rebooted by now. Let me just make sure that change is saved, and I could commit it into the kernel source. PC socket, and we'll do one more make and make install. You can tell I'm getting tired because I'm making stupid mistakes typing in the terminal. Are you testing on VM? So no beeping? Now I'm depressed. You can redeem beeps with channel points. So we can still get beeps. No worries. Right? So we do still have beeps held safely in our hearts. They can install that, and then we'll reboot, run the exploit, and we'll probably close out there. Look at all the beeps coming through. I love it. We got a train going on. We're making the Sony gods proud. Okay? It'll bring us good fortune. You guys are doing God's work. Godspeed. If BSD restart equals true, beep. That could be fun, actually. Trying to set up like a... I guess I could actually just add it on a command. Not when it restarts, but when I SSH in from a restart, I could make it beep. By just like adding a tail command onto that in WSL. Speaking of, I think we should be back now. Maybe not quite. Close, probably? Yeah, close. There we go. SSH just came up right after I ran it. It was like perfect timing. Okay. sh build.sh. God damn it, it's gone again. I should just assume if the exploit rebooted the VM, it's gone. The source file's gone. It's been eaten. Okay. If this one fails the same way though, I know that I need to adjust the timings down further for sure. After 3 times. So yeah, I mean, for those who are tuning in a little late, since I've been doing this sort of for a little while, essentially all I'm doing here is tweaking timings. Also getting a little unlucky apparently, but trying to tweak the timings so that I can make the interleaving work on the little race strategy I've been working on. This is literally just going to be brute force, pretty much. Oh, shit. I forgot that the after empty control is also... No! I gotta change that too. Okay, I'll probably do that off stream because I am probably going to cut it here. I didn't really want to exceed 2 hours, and we're getting close to that 2-hour mark. I won't... Maybe I'll build... Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. I can probably do it quickly. We'll move this after check. We'll also encompass this in an if statement. The same if statement, pretty much. If that is true, log that. I'll put it in curly braces just in case I want to add more code later. Okay. One more kernel build to rule them all. Are we back in SSH land? I think we are. Good. That was in user request. No, wait, that was in socket actually. Right? That was in socket. Yeah. All right. So we'll go ahead and rebuild the kernel really quick. AMD64 compile my kernel make, and then we'll make install, reboot, run the exploit again, and then we'll cap the stream off, and I'll continue working on the timings. So yeah, what I was kind of talking about there before I got a little bit distracted was basically adjusting these timings is just going to be a matter of trial and error, brute forcing. So I'm not going to do all that on stream because it's just going to be this over and over. And I've already been doing this for quite a while. But I still wanted to do some of it on stream. That way you guys saw some of the aspects of exploit dev that's kind of left out in the write-ups and stuff. The non-fun parts are never talked about. Or at least almost never talked about. Yeah, I'm seeing some stuff about the vaccines in chat. I don't really want to start that discussion. None of us here are, biochemists or something. So, we can't really offer informed opinions on that stuff. So, we'll just avoid that discussion in chat, please. Because it breeds flame wars for absolutely no reason. It's just silliness, in my opinion. All right. So we'll run our exploit here. It didn't remove my source file. We are so lucky. Hell yeah. All right. So now we're not getting those prints on every packet, which is good. It means we have the checks in place now. It's all Gucci. Yeah, no worries, dude. It's just some of the discussion we want to avoid so it doesn't derail things, That's all. So once again, we received too late because we're corrupting it before the empty control check. So this is kind of what I expected would happen. It means I'm going to have to adjust the timings down even lower. I started out with I think I started out with 1 second. I ended up taking it down to half a second, then 250 milliseconds, then 125. I then took it down to 25 milliseconds, and that still seems to be too much. So this will be interesting to see how tight of a race this is. It might end up being a matter of like a couple milliseconds, which is pretty tight. But I mean, when you're talking about races, they can totally get that tight. Especially because like my computer, I'm running at 3.9 gigahertz right now, right? So the race is probably tighter to hit on the VM than it will be on the PS4. So in a way, the most stable we can get the timings on the PC, the better, because it should be even more stable on the PS4, in theory at least. There are a lot of factors and aspects into that could change that, but at least in theory, that's how it should, port over. I'm wondering if you could run this in a debugger or not. Not sure how it's done, but I know it's possible with WinDebug in Windows. You could run this in like KGDB or whatever. I really dislike kernel debugging. It's really bad. Mostly because the tooling just isn't good enough for it. The VOD of the stream is going to be available. I could slow the VMs down also. I might do that, but yeah, the VOD will be available. That said, I'm going to wrap up the stream here. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. I will be live again sometime within the next few days. Once again, follow us on Twitter and on Discord to find out when that is. I am going to end off the stream here, though. So yeah, thank you to everyone who tuned in. Z, I don't know if you have any raid targets. If you do, let me know. But I don't really see anybody streaming on my end at the moment. Thank you for the 100 bits, Belika. Not yet? Okay, we will take a quick look around to see if there's anybody that we might want to raid. But yeah, I will be heading off here in a minute. But basically, yeah, work after this is just going to be on getting those timings working. Yeah, no one? Okay, all good. So, once again, I'll see you guys sometime this week again. You can follow us on our Discord and Twitter to find out when, and I'll see you guys then.